Wrestling is one of the hardest sports out there, and if you don't believe that, then you've never wrestled. The thing about it is, I'm actually better at golf, and I'm actually even better at football than I was at wrestling, but I wouldn't be the athlete that I am today without wrestling. What's up, guys? This is Mighty Q's Locker, and today I want to talk about how wrestling made me a better athlete, and more importantly, better at golf. So for me, I started wrestling when I was about 4 years old. I had three uncles on my mom's side, all of which wrestled, and we grew up in the south suburbs of Chicago. So all three of them wrestled and had made it to state, had won as a part of their team, they had won dual state multiple times. Um, one of which I believe they won it 4 times, but it actually was only three because I actually got one taken away. Either way, long story. I grew up in a wrestling family, so I started wrestling very young, and I had them to give me knowledge very early on that then transitioned into great coaching from the time that I was in elementary school, and in middle school, and the first little bit that I was in high school. I started doing 3-a-days when I was in fifth grade. So I was actually a part of the club team in town. And that club coach was one of the head wrestling coaches at a high school. And he would let me come in for the high school practice. And I would practice with the JV team and the girls team when I was in fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth grade. And then after the high school practice was over, I would then be at our younger kids club practice, and then I would be at my practice, which was the older kids and the advanced group club practice. And most days of the week, I would leave from there and I would go to 24-hour fitness, where I would either be on the elliptical and work out for 20, 30, 45 minutes. I would sit in the steam room, or I would sit in the sauna. And I was doing this fifth grade, sixth grade, seventh grade, eighth grade. So by the time I was a freshman in high school, I had been doing 3-a-days for essentially the last 4 years during wrestling season. I got into my freshman year, and so whereas instead of doing 3-a-days, I was doing 2-a-days mostly, because I was at my high school practice during the class period that was fourth period and into after school, and then I would leave from there, go home, change, and then I would go to my club practice. And that was it. I wasn't doing anything extra on top, because the high school practice that I was a part of during the class period is what was setting the difference there. So I was at a longer high school practice, and that longer high school practice is what made me not be able to practice after my club practice like I was doing before. And at this point, I was fairly good at wrestling. I wasn't as good as I could have been, and I definitely still could have been so much better, and I know exactly where that was on the table. But the difference for me is I put in so many reps on a consistent basis, but it really taught me how to work hard. Yes, I got better at wrestling. Yes, I got better very quick. And then once I got better, I only got better faster as I kept working harder. And that was something that I noticed, and that's something that I transitioned with. So once I started playing golf, was really about, I'd say seventh grade, but it was really like after I was done in eighth grade is when I started actually playing a few tournaments. And until you play tournament golf, you haven't really played golf. Like, yeah, I knew how to swing a club and I had played golf before, but playing competitive golf rounds is completely different than playing with your dad or playing with your grandpa, or being out there with your buddies. That's completely different. So for me, the first real competitive rounds and the first time that I really started paying attention to golf was basically going into high school. That summer, golf was my job. My mom would drop me off at the course on her way to work, and she would pick me up after she was done working. So I was at the golf course every day between 7 and 8 a.m. She would go to work, and she would get done at work between 4 or 5, or somewhere in there. But I normally was at the golf course for 7, 8, 9 hours. And this was 5 or 6 days a week. There was days where I would go play in the morning. I would then have lunch, and then I would practice, and then I would go back out and play. There was days I just played back to back twice. There was days I was out on the range, and then I would practice. There were some days where I only chipped and putted, and I'm not even going to lie, there wasn't many of those days, but there were days that I just solely practiced. So yeah, I would spend, 2 hours on the range, but I would then spend an equal 2 hours over on the short game area. I was in the bunker. I was in and around the greens. I was hitting shots out of the rough. I was hitting all different types of shots. And then maybe I'd go play later that day, or maybe I would just putt. But I spent 7, 8, 9 hours a day at the golf course every single day in summer. I took that same 3 a day work really, really, really hard, bust your ass during the season that I was doing for wrestling, and on the bookends of it, because it was just before wrestling started and then just after. I just took that and I applied it to golf. And the crazy part was that same doubling effect of once you get better really, really fast. And then it does start to plateau. There is an element there that starts off with the reps, and it matters how many reps you put in. And then you get to a certain comfortability of how to do something. So this, for example, like if you want to learn how to shoot a double leg really well, or you want to get really good with your irons, or you want to even like be better at your free throws, there's a certain threshold of you've done 1,000 reps. Okay, you're going to be decently good at knowing how it feels. But then you do it for 10,000 reps. And it's a completely different feel. Like if you're shooting a free throw, after your 10,000th rep, you can go, okay, I know how it feels coming off of my middle finger and ring finger that, oh, I know that this was going in at the minute it comes off of my hand based off of how it feels coming out of your hand. That's the same way it is on a double leg. When you hit enough double legs and you shoot them enough times, you start to know where your level change is. So it's like, you know how close you are to the mat without having to like actually physically touch the mat. You don't have to actually look down and be like, how low am I? Am I here in this position? It's a muscle memory, but it's a comfortable memory because you get better feeling. Like when you hit a golf shot, yes, you feel it in your hands. When you hit a really good one, you feel it in your hands. But the difference is when you start to get really good at golf is you know on the takeaway what to do on the downswing to make sure you get back in that little zone, because golf is really only about the couple inches behind the ball and a couple inches in front of the ball, and that's really about it. What you do outside of that, you can have a crazy backswing and a crazy downswing, but as long as inside of that little window of just behind the ball and just before the ball, if the club is timed up right and the face angle is right and you strike the ball correctly and your path coming through there is fine, it truly doesn't matter what else you do. So you start to get this feeling of in a swing where you know where your hands are supposed to be, you know where they're supposed to drop in at the right point. And that for me is what changed. I didn't understand the feeling of, wow, I hit, 7,000 golf balls in a day or something. And it's like, I don't know how many, because you never count, but like I could have done the math if like you look at what a pyramid of golf balls is, and it's like, okay, it's like I went through 2 of those, and I had X amount of golf balls that were on the short game area, and it's like I cleared off the green 4 times, and you look at all the different piles, and like you could really go back through and add up all the different stuff that you did in a day. But doing that many reps and doing that many reps consistently built that feeling in my hands really, really fast. I had a certain feeling with a golf club when I was able to take a backswing that I knew exactly where the club head was at, and I knew where the face angle was. Like I knew if the club face was a little bit open at the top of the swing because of something that I was about to do. And it starts to be, I was like able to think about these things where like I was on the backswing and I was like, yep, good takeaway. Okay. All right. Close it up a little bit. All right. Drop it down. All right. Chest and turn all the way through. Like I made it very simple for myself, but I knew the feeling I had in my hands because of how many reps I did. I was so confident stepping over a swing because I knew, oh, I've done this before. Yep, I'm good. I've done this before. Yep, I've already taken this swing. Yep, I've seen this shot. Okay, I know exactly what I have to do. I'm going to hit this one 172 yards. It's going to be decently high up in the air. It's going to have a good amount of spin. It's going to fall to the right. It's not going to actually move right. It's just going to fall right. And when it hits, it's going to take 2 hops, check up, and stay right about there. If it comes back 3 to 5 inches, there's a possibility. But for the most part, it's going to take 2 hops, kind of check. And if it wants to come back that 3 inches, it will. But otherwise, it's going to stay and it might, fall half a rotation backwards. That's the type of comfortability that you can get to with a lot of reps and doing a lot of reps consistently. That's how you get good. It's when you get so comfortable with what you're doing, you're actually thinking about it without thinking about it. I'm making all these slight tweaks, I'm making all these little changes, I'm making all of these things in the moment on the fly without having to think about it. It's all natural, it's all feel, it's all comfortable because my body had its own memory of those reps. So when you do enough reps and you get good enough, now you just start escalating with how many great reps can you do. You start doing a bunch of great reps, you start producing over and over and over great results without having to worry about it. So if I was just out on the driving range and I was just making a bunch of bad swings, then I would have bad results. You have to make good swings, you have to make good reps, you have to make them focused reps, and you have to apply effort to what you're doing. That's where that difference is, and that's where that hard work came in. When I was doing all those hours at wrestling, when I was going from, the high school practice for a little bit, and then it was transition into the club practice, I had to change the way that I viewed each practice. When I was in there with the high schoolers, they were 5, 6, 7 years older than me, with some of the girls being, juniors and seniors. I couldn't go in there with the mentality of, okay, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to be able... I had to change my strategy. I had to work on different things when I was wrestling them. They were older than me. They were stronger than me. They were faster than me. I had to be more precise. I had to be more crisp. My technique got to the point where I knew my technique was so good because that was the only thing I could rely on to get a chance of scoring against any of them. Again, they were older, they were bigger, they were stronger, they were faster. I didn't wrestle over 100 pounds until my 8th grade year. They were all bigger than me. They were all faster than me. They were all stronger than me. But it was, how could I get my little bit of an advantage? And it was me focusing on technique. Then it was the exact opposite when I was at that next practice. It was, okay, how can I make that technique? But now how can I start to take that technique and speed it up? How can I hit this technique faster? How can I get better at hitting this technique? How can I get to a point where this technique is perfect and I'm fast? So that's where I started to build. Then when I was at my own practice, that's where I was able to start to leverage against people that were my own age, that were my size, that were of the same caliber. I was able to do the things that I had to do when now I was comboing my speed, my technique, and my strength level matched to what theirs were. That's where I started to see my gains. That's where I started to see all of it come together. When I had a chance to drill and work and go against people that were faster, stronger than me, my technique got better, I got faster, and I got stronger. So when I wrestled people my own age and my own size and of my technical same ability, I used to run through them. And that's how I got better, because I got my ass kicked at practice virtually every day. And then I was able to do my own ass kicking in tournaments with kids my own age. That's the reality of what happened. And then when I made that transition to golf, it was completely different, because I was now the one who was trying to play catch up. I was the one that I didn't start playing, golf competitively. I knew how to play golf. I knew how to swing, but I didn't play golf the way that other people played golf. I was the person who knew what I was doing, but I didn't have the reps under my belt knowing what I was doing. So when I jumped into the realm of golf, I was getting my ass kicked consistently. And it was a long catch-up game for me until I put that work in, until I started doing the reps at a level where I was putting in good reps, where I wasn't bad rep, good rep, bad rep, good rep, good rep, bad rep, bad rep. I started getting to the point where it was good rep after good rep. And once I got to that level and I was able to scale it, and I was able to put in a bunch of time, and I was able to put in a bunch of work, and then is when I started to be able to see that turn happen, when I started getting better, when I started seeing those scores drop. Because the issue with golf is it's not about how good you are, it's about how minimal your mistakes are. So you're getting better isn't about, oh, I got really, really good. It's, no, I cut away all the mistakes. And for the beginning part, when you first start practicing and you first start putting in all of that effort, I was making so many mistakes that I didn't even know about. I was so ignorant at the time of, I didn't know what I didn't know. So I was running into all of those problems. And then I was running into my own problems where I was making all the mistakes. And so it takes time to chop down all of those and get them to a point where it was good rep after good rep after good rep. But once you're at the point where, okay, these reps are easy, these reps are doing it every time, that's when you have to double down. That's when you have to put all the chips forward. That's when you have to bet everything you have and go all in on that, because that's when you scale. That's when you get better. That's the difference between the person who takes second in the Olympics in the 100-meter dash and the person who takes first. It's not just a tenth of a second. It's the extra thousands of hours of work that you put in to go that tenth of a second faster, to throw that extra yard farther, to get one shot better, to get one takedown better. That is the difference. It's the hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of work between second and first that make all the difference. And it feels great to have a second place medal, but it also stings, because you know how close you are, you know how close you got, and someone beat you slightly. It doesn't matter if they blow the brakes off and they lap you and they lap everyone else. If you come in second, it always stings, because you were better than everyone else but one. There's one person that beats you. There's one person that's better than you. And you put in all the work that was exponential versus all the people that took third and worse. All of that stacked together, you did more work and more hours to be better than them. But that person who beat you put in your amount of hours than everyone that finished underneath you, and they still did more. That's why second place hurts. And that is the difference of what wrestling taught me. I had taken second before. I had gotten to the point where I was in a championship match. I was winning in a championship match, and I lost on something last second. I've been in that moment. I've been there, and I've tried to climb up from the blood rounds, and I've lost early and climbed back and taken third. I've been through that long gauntlet. I've been through that long journey. I've challenged up for second. I've both lost and I've won those matches. But again, it still doesn't feel good knowing, wow, I took second and I still am one person short. When you win, you feel great. You're up on top of the world. You've gone through and you know, wow, my hard work paid off. But the minute you wake up the next day, you're back to square one, and it's back to the drawing board. And it's sometimes harder to come over that hump when you've won, because you now have to go, all right, we're back at square one. We now have to do all of the same training hours that we did before, and now we have to scale up even more, because people now know what I did. People now are going to train harder than they trained. They're going to train harder than I just trained. I just put out a number. I just put out X amount of strokes. I just put out X X that happened, people are coming after me. I've got a target on my back. I now have to double it. And sometimes you can't overcome that. That's why dynasties fall. That's why they don't last forever. That's why the same team doesn't win the championship every year. That's why same people don't go back to back every single year. Some teams do, some teams don't. Some teams fold, some teams don't. Some teams rise to the occasion, some teams fall. Some people go and celebrate and never get back on the train, and that's their one thing that they want to get to. Some people pivot and turn and focus their attention elsewhere. Some people focus solely on only going back to back, and they become a hindrance to others. It's all of these magical things at work, but that's what is so beautiful about sports. That's what's so beautiful about wrestling. That's what's so beautiful about golf. That's what's so amazing about this thing that we call sports, because you get the opportunity to put in and grind and get better and see the self-improvement, to see how good you can get and get the chance to compete. And if you win, it's great. If you lose, there's no real downside. Sports allow you to learn all the life lessons and to feel the sting, but in the end, it doesn't actually change anything. If you lose the championship football game, it doesn't mean that you lose your house. It doesn't mean that you lose or any of that. Sports are something that is real life problems, real life issues, real life hard work. But you don't have to actually pay for it here in the real world. You feel the pain of it for sure. Taking second is going to hurt forever. But once you understand that and can feel that sting, you can play the game of life way better than someone who decides not to play sports. That's why wrestling made me so much better at everything that I do. Yes, it made me better at golf. Yes, it made me better at football. Yes, it made me better at XYZ sport. But it made me better at the sport because I could work my ass off and I could bust my butt and I can give it my best and I can keep getting better and I can keep self-improving and I can keep on the grind for a delayed gratification down the road. But it's more about how much better I can be in real life. It's how much better I get the chance to go and operate life knowing all of the lessons that I got to learn growing up wrestling. Growing up in a world that is super intense, that asks and is very demanding of you. And I started at a young age. I started being very serious about it at a young age. And then when I got to the point where, hey, I want to shift my attention and I want to go all in somewhere else, that's exactly what I did. I shifted to golf. I went all in 100%. And I said I wanted to get a scholarship. And that's exactly what I did. I went and I got a scholarship and I played golf at Lewis University. And that was my sole focus. I wanted to get a scholarship and I wanted to play college golf. That is the reason that I quit wrestling. I said, I want to go and get a scholarship and I want to play golf. I want to play golf in college. I don't want to wrestle in college. And I made that switch. I made that change. And I went all in, and wrestling taught me how to go all in. Wrestling taught me how to work hard. Wrestling taught me how to deal with the ups and downs. Wrestling taught me how to put in that work, but how to do it correctly, how to delay the gratification, and to stick to it. Wrestling is amazing. Golf is amazing. It's a battle in your mind. It's a battle of yourself. For wrestling, you have to battle yourself to make the weight and show up on the tournament. And you have to battle yourself to show up on the mat and battle the person across you. For golf, it's 100% on your own. It's you against the course. You're not playing anyone else. You're playing against the course. You rank yourself based off of how others played against the course. But it's you against the course. You can go about it in whatever artistic way you want. You can go about it in any fashion, in any possible way that you think of and conceive of. But the objective is get the ball in the hole as few stroke as possible. And how well can you play against the course? It's a complete battle of mistakes. The person who makes the fewest mistakes wins. And it's a complete mental battle, and it's amazing. And we all love it. And the millions of people that play it don't play it well because they don't know it's a battle of mistakes. And it's a battle in your own head, and it's a battle against yourself. And once you figure that out, and once you understand that you're born to win, you can achieve anything. So, I'll talk to you guys on the next one.
If you enjoy this podcast, then the only thing that I ask of you is to share the show with a friend and leave a review. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.